Greetings, everyone. I want to thank everyone for watching this overview and also going on strong with 520 plus subscribers for this small channel of mine. I do appreciate each and every one of you for subscribing and helping this channel grow. Again, it's slightly niche, but I do appreciate everyone. And today's overview will be in regards to the SNK game Robo Army for the home AES system. This game was released in October of 1991 in the arcade, was then released in December 20th of 1991 for the Neo Geo, April 21st, 1995 for the Neo Geo CD, released on PlayStation 4 on October 19th, 2017, Xbox One and Nintendo Switch, also on October 19th, 2017, re-released on Xbox One on January 11th, 2018, also, of course, the Neo Geo Mini as well on both October 15th, 2018 and December 3rd, 2018. And as you can see, is a beat 'em up, of course, in the vein of Double Dragon, Final Fight, Ninja Commando, Ninja Warriors, and of course several others of its ilk. Of course, released in '91, it is a little bit older. The gameplay is pretty typical, going from left to right, side-scrolling beat 'em up. Uh, A is to use throw punches, B is to jump. You can even do little small combos, and C is used to launch a special attack, which of course would take a little meter, so you can only launch it till you have it. As far as the characters themselves, you can choose to play as Maxima, who is the main character, Rocky, and Jeed. And this game, much like later beat 'em ups, of course, this game was released along the same year as Burning Fight in 1991. And of course, later on, in 1992, Mutation Nation came out. Sengoku 1, 2, and of course, subsequently 3 came out much later. But this was unfortunately released in a time when there was just tons of beat 'em ups. Beat 'em ups basically became the fighting game clones. When once the fighting genre really got reinvigorated in 1992, that became the new kind of game or genre to copy. So of course there were a lot of beat 'em ups during this time, from the '90 all the way up to about '94. It was still the semi-popular for what came out during that time. As for Neo Geo, this game was still unique. It's got a unique theme. Of course, has Maxima, which of course is later on, as far as the name, was used in King of Fighters and introduced in the NES Saga series. Doesn't look anything like him, but some of the special attacks is pretty similar. The game itself is a fun little beat 'em up. It harkens back to a slightly simpler kind of a gameplay. It is a quarter muncher, so your enemies, when they do hit you, will take a chunk of your health. That said, the sprites are large. The backgrounds, they're kind of bland, to be honest. I think I did prefer Mutation Nation, as the backgrounds were a bit better, but Robo Army was definitely not bad for its time. The graphics themselves for the characters, besides being large, they do use a lot of kind of scaling as far as the rotating of the bosses that come in and out of the screen. So that's pretty cool. You'll face different type of robotic or mechanized units in the game, so the variety itself is pretty cool. But for any beat 'em ups, a lot of the times the base enemy that you face are usually going to be color and palette swaps, so that doesn't change here. Like most beat 'em ups, the control and gameplay, besides the punch, jump button, and special button, again pretty standard. Press the punch and jump button together to release a special quote-unquote attack. You can also pick up a kind of an invincibility, destroy everything on the screen. As you see here, you can kind of turn into an armored vehicle, which basically runs down everything and on the screen, and basically one hit kills most of the enemies. Unfortunately, you can't quite save it for the boss. Some of the bosses, pretty stand for its time. Got to look for a pattern, and a lot of it is kind of repetition and memorization. Again, I can see again the kind of scaling rotation effects for getting those sprites larger than they originally were. Uh, Definitely a very fun beat 'em up at its time. Still not quite as good as Mutation Nation, but personally I think still up there, especially even considering Double Dragon. As much as I loved Double Dragon growing up and playing it back in the day, the gameplay for Robo Army was definitely, of course, much better, but Double Dragon was one of the progenitors, besides, say, Renegade or Kung Fu. But still a very fun game to play. This game not very long gameplay wise, but still a very fun. It's one of those games back in the day when this came out in 1991. Definitely showcased what the Nintendo or the Sega Master System could not do, or even TurboGrafx 16, as there was never really a port of these games like Mutation Nation to the home systems. They were just only released on the Neo Geo Aes, and then of course later on the Neo Geo CD, which unfortunately had the requisite load time. Um, really wasn't released to almost arcade perfect until it became released as a backwards compatible title via ACA or Hamster for both the PlayStation 4, Xbox, Switch, and much like other games of its type, since they've made quite a few of these cartridges, it is fairly inexpensive, and I mean fairly, because they're not quite the high-priced titles like a Metal Slug or some of the more rare titles. But I would say nowadays, even with the increased prices, you could probably get away with picking this up anywhere between 100 to maybe 150, 160 before shipping on eBay. So that is still a possibility. That said, of course, you can pick this up digitally for the Nintendo Switch for $7.99 or whenever it goes on sale, as the ACA Hamster Neo Geo games go on sale every so often. So you can always add this to your wish list, wait for a price drop, and if it does come, just pick it up then. Or if you get some gift cards and decide to pick it up. Fortunately, the Switch is a great little platform to play retro old school games, and since this game is so tiny in comparison to a lot of other games, you can get away with having like a 256 gigabyte card and just fill up your Switch with old retro titles. And the fun part, it's fun on the go when you want to play something quick while you're waiting at the doctor's office or something, or when you get home and play with friends and actually put it on the dock, have it on the big screen, like connected to a projector, etc. So still fun little beat 'em up, good little two-player action like mini beat 'em ups. The main kind of fun comes with playing with another character. This game is doable as a single player, but when you do play with a friend, it really makes it a ton of fun. Now, definitely not as polished as, say, other games in the genre like Streets of Rage. Even Streets of Rage 1, I think, has better gameplay than Robo Army, even if those does have smaller sprites, and incomparable to Streets of Rage 2, which I think is still one of the pinnacles of the beat 'em up games. And of course, now it's Streets of Rage 4 is still one of my favorite titles. I play it often on the Switch or even on my laptop on Steam, especially once they included that rogue like mode with the survival mode. Still, I still recommend if you're a fan of beat 'em ups and you see this on sale, pick it up. Uh, Definitely still fun to play. Good way to pass the time for about an hour and a half or so with friends. It's definitely a good game for you just kind of turn off your brain and kind of mash buttons. The only time you really need to think about strategy is really when you're getting to know the boss characters. Once you kind of know the trick, then you can kind of beat them fairly well. The playthrough that you're seeing through is me playing through the game and honestly not even remembering a lot of the boss attacks or the weaknesses. So I definitely felt, I succumbed to a lot of their attacks because of that. But once you do know the patterns when enemies come out, what they're weak against, where to position yourself, like most beat 'em ups, it becomes pretty easy at that point. But it doesn't mean it's no less fun. The soundtrack itself is okay, so are the sound effects. I'm not exactly completely whelmed by those. It was good for its time, but would I played again by choice as far as the soundtrack? Definitely not. I still think kind of of course, other games like Streets of Rage did it better when it comes to the soundtrack, but still completely very, very, very playable and still a lot of fun. Um, Again, if you are going to play with a friend. Play at least with one other person. Otherwise, the gameplay can be a little stale. Well, that kind of covers my overview. Still a fun kind of pick me up. If you can find it, pick it up.